It changed me right away, because it happened to me when I was 15. I was, really gangster in a sense, without. And it wasn't Crips and Blood kind of thing where red and blue. It wasn't about colors, gangs where it's just a matter of you had your crew, in those days we said crew, which means obviously your friends, and it wasn't until probably, it wasn't until 3 years later where a friend of mine got murdered, and it was executed, that made me realize that, only because, as a kid I went to so many funerals. I went to more funerals when I was a teenager than an adult. I think I went to one. I've been to 2 funerals as an adult. One was an ex-girlfriend's father that passed away from cancer. Another one was, 2. The other one was 2 DJs. One was Larry Levan, and the other one was Larry Patterson and David Cole. Sorry. So, okay, 4 funerals now. I went from 1 to 4. But when I was a teenager, kids that, were part of our crew, it was ridiculous, And obviously it wasn't from natural causes. All of them were shot.
So you got shot being part of that crew?
Well, I got shot, hanging out on a corner, in front of a building, pre-war building, and you end up having an argument with somebody, really just a few words, not even, and I got up to fight the guy, even though he was taller than me and everything. On top of that, I knew him, which was, very strange. He wasn't my best friend, but he was part of a sense of our crew, but from the Bronx, we lived in Brooklyn.
Right.
So, and it was really over my ex-wife, really, at the time when she was, because we're both the same age, when she was a teenager as well, so. It was more like a man trying to say, I'm gonna, smack your woman, and you're like, you smack my woman, I kick the daylights out of you. Not in those same words, but, so I hit him, punched him in his face, and, I came off the stoop, to say, okay, we're gonna fight, hand my hand. The guy pulled out a gun, threw 25 automatic, cocked it, and my words were, oh shit. And I'm sure he wasn't aiming for my legs, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's no such thing, you're aiming. But how many people in reality have guns and have no experience in shooting a gun, That stuff you see on TV with the cowboys, they're like, psh, psh, psh. That's a bunch of nonsense, because, you very rarely could hit a moving target. Unless you were trained that way, and come on. Most gangsters, you ain't trained to shoot. You don't go no firing range, you know what I mean?
So he pulled it out.
So he pulled it out, shot me. It was a funny thing. This is a really very funny story. Oh, it fell.
That's my fault.
Yeah,
Good.
And the funny thing was, the hospital was right around the corner, right? And I remember going, I stopped at a building right across the street. I went to the lobby of a building. It's really a vestibule. You know what a vestibule means? V-E-S-T-I-B-U-L-E?
Well, I think of it as the entrance to a building.
That's exactly what it was. And so I stopped, and I had white sneakers, cloth. And I remember my pants, the whole leg was all red, and my sneakers was red. It was brand new white sneakers. I remember the sneaker was just red.
Where did he hit you? The gut?
No, I got hit in
Like
my calf. It went
calf. Okay.
through one, and it went in, it went clean to the muscle. And I go to where the ambulance entrance is, and I'm knocking on the door. I'm ringing the bell, and a security guy comes, and he says, you have to go around the main entrance. And I'm like, but I'm shot. He goes, you have to go around the main entrance. And I'm like, so,
Filled with blood.
And the funny was, I had friends of mine, call me, and well, obviously my mother came that night and everything, and friends come and call me the next day. How you doing? I'm like, I'm laid up in my house, Everything is all right. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, everything's okay, don't worry about it. Everything's taken care of, just like that. Really deep. And that was and then from there, when I was 15, I was going to a school I didn't like. I wanted to play professional baseball.
We're in Brooklyn.
Flatbush.
Okay. I'm from my family's from Bay Ridge.
I know Bay Ridge. And, you know, but when I was 18, me and my friend that got executed, you know, it's funny because, you know, I was the DJ for my friends, and it wasn't with just so much of being a DJ. I was the one that sat by the stereo and played music for my friends.
Right.
Understand? We'd hang out. I'm the one hanging next to them, choosing the records. We just, whatever we're doing, you know.
Yeah.
Dave, play some records for us. You know, I mean, it was that kind of thing. That's really how I got into DJing, you know. And so I had the records because I would buy records, even though at that time, I think I stole more records than I bought, because at 13, 14 years old, in reality, you have no job, and you know, my parents didn't have no money. There wasn't no DJ culture where obviously, Mom, you know, can you give me $20, I can go buy me a couple of records. It was nothing like that at all. Right. $20. I was lucky if I would ever get a new pair of sneakers once a year. Never mind records for to buy some records. I mean, money to buy some records. And so obviously, I always played on stolen equipment. You know, and we had such a reputation that I'd go to neighborhood clubs. They wouldn't let me in the DJ booth. They think I want to, like, you know, case it to rob it. So anyway, me and his friend's name was David as well, and he was handsome guy, genetically built, green eyes, blonde hair. He was macho man, and I was what we call in Spanish skinny, which is flaco. So they would call me flaco because I was very skinny back in them days. So there was macho man, there was flaco because we were both named David. And we knew each other like we were 12, and we decided to join the Marines together because, you know, we were just tired of the whole lifestyle, you know.
Well, and what age were you?
I was 18. 18. And he was 1 year older than me. He was 19. And when we took the exams together, we passed. You know, we were gung-ho to join the Marines, and then he got executed.
Oh my God.
And then I knew that I was still trying to get into the Marines because you know, we made a pact, and okay, I'm still going only because, you know, it was very, you know, it's one thing, you know, once you arrive at a stage in your life where you figure, you know, something needs to change.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like a life-changing moment. Choice.
And I still tried to get into the Marines, but because I got arrested when I was under 16 I used to be a graffiti writer on the subways. So you have to go to a court to get a paper because even though you're not supposed to have a record from when you're under 16, right, but you still had to have a paper from the courts saying everything was okay. And I went twice to get the papers. Twice. In other words, it just wasn't meant to be that I was supposed to join the Marines.
Do you regret it?
No.
Okay.
I don't. Because I wouldn't be where I am today.